If you have ever tried building a website, then you've probably heard that you need programming, you need to learn JavaScript, HTML, Python, and other things related to coding and programming to be able to build a decent looking website. And this was actually true for some time. But times have changed and a lot of no-code tools have come out that can help you build a really good looking website without any past experience in coding or programming. You could even build Apple's website with Webflow, which is a very advanced website. And that's exactly what I'm doing in this video, is rebuilding Apple's website with just Webflow and teaching you guys how to do that in the process. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. Okay, so jumping right into it, where we left off last time was in the Apple's website. Let me make myself a bit smaller so you can see. We left in here, we already created this first section. And by the way, if you did not watch the first video, absolutely go watch it because I explain how to use every single basic tool you need in Webflow. And we actually go ahead and create this first section, which will be very beneficial because you learn a lot of things just from this one section. So for those who have watched the first section, you'll remember we created this one, and actually since that video, Apple has updated their website, bringing this Apple event to the very top. We're not going to create that just because I want to do things that are permanent in Apple's website. That is going to go away after the event, so there's no need. Now, for this video, what I want to do is just give myself a time limit of 20 minutes and just get everything that I can done in those 20 minutes instead of just choosing one or two sections. So going into the second section, as you can see, it's mostly this background image and then just one shop button. Now, the background image, you can either screenshot it. What I went ahead and did is created a similar thing here in Canva. You can also do that. It's nothing too hard. I actually went ahead and recorded how to make this, but in the end, I figured out that I wasn't actually recording. So yeah, you guys are going to have to figure it out on your own, but it's very simple. Just find an image of the mouse, a pen, and an AirPod from Google. Remove their backgrounds using the Adobe Background Remover. It's actually free. If you just search Adobe Background Remover, you'll find it on Google. And just scatter them all over the place. Take some inspiration from Apple's website itself. And then these are just elements. These are just boxes with roundness to it and a color. This MacBook and this iPad, basically the same as all the other images. Find it on Google, remove the background, just pin it in here, and then just put some text over it, and you're good. So I've already went ahead and downloaded it. So let's go back to Webflow. Going into our navigation, or just press Z as a shortcut, press on the body and either press plus, or another shortcut is Control E, and it brings up the search bar, and just search section. That's what I'll be using from now on, but if you want to use the plus button, you're more than welcome to. So pressing on the section, let's actually name it. I already have the name preset, just create a new name for you guys, by Max CTA. That's what I'll name the section. And I actually had already done some work on this, but I'm going to just delete it and redo it with you guys. So let's reset everything. There you go. So pressing on by Max CTA section, let's customize it. On the spacing, add 60 pixels padding to all sides. And this is padding, not margin, okay? And if you watched the first video, you should already know how to do this. Very easy. Next, let's go to our size and make the width, or actually make the height percent and make it 100%. Or actually, let's make it 80. Because as you can see in Apple's website, it's taking about 80% of your screen height. So going back into Webflow, let's make this 80%. And then let's go to our background. Let's add an image. I choose image, and then I've already have this image uploaded. If you do not have this image, just go customize it, screenshot it, do whatever you can. It doesn't have to be perfect. We just want to learn from this experience. And by the way, it is 3:03 a.m. right now, so the 20 minutes will be up at 3:20 because we started at 3:20. Okay, and then just make it cover. And actually, I think the 80% is not going to work. So instead of that, let's change it, the size of the section, to view height and make it 80 view height. And then go back to by Max CTA. Okay, so going into our section by Max CTA, you can see the background is not very centered. So let's go and center it. Let's make it a cover image. just because that suits and that works the best in this case. And actually, as you can see, there's a gap between the sections in Apple's website. So let's go pressing the by max ETA. Let's go up to spacing and add a 20 pixel margin. They're perfect there. And now let's add the shop button. So pressing on by max ETA, let's either Control E or plus button and anything works. And if you guys can remember in the first video, I told you that there's a section, a container, and then a div block. But as I said, sometimes you can change it up. So what I'm going to do in here is just search for a div. I'm not going to put a container because this is only the button and I don't want to use a container because usually containers are for things that have more than one element inside it. But since I only have the button, I'm only going to use one div. So let's use a div, and in order to make sure it's always at the bottom, let's go to by max ETA and make it a flex in here in the display, and just make the alignment might be at the top, like at the top or at the bottom. Just make it a bottom alignment, okay? And then going to the div block, let's name this shop div, and let's put a 10 pixel padding inside. And then pressing on the shop div, you can do this from the navigation as well. Do Control E or the plus button, anything works. And let's add a link block. Okay. And then inside the link block, let's add some text. And for that, let's just use a text box, text block. And as you can remember, anything that goes inside the link block is always going to be blue and underlined. So pressing the link block, go to your typography section and remove the decor, and then set color to, in this case, blue. You can just use the color picker and get the same color as in Apple's website there. And then let's actually make this bigger because it is bigger in Apple's website. I want to make this, let's try 25. I think 25 or 22. 22 I think is the best. And then just type shop inside it. There you go. And then going to the shop div or div block, let's add, actually, let's make the top padding 20 pixels, the bottom make it 20, the right one make it 20, and then the left one make it 20. Actually, change the top and the bottom to 15. Yeah, that works better. And then go down, pressing on the shop div, go down, and then make the borders, I want to say 25 pixels. And then next to style, choose a solid line, and then set color to the same blue as the text. And then I think, yep, we're done with this section. It's 3:09 a.m. right now, so there's about 11 minutes left. So let's get the most out of those 11 minutes. Now, let's add another section. So go to your navigation, press on the body, Control E or the plus button, and then press section. And there it is. So the next section, as you can see, is the MacBook Air, this section. And what I want to do is actually find this image online. Okay, there it is. We found that image. Or I think it's this one, no? Yep. And it's actually the transparent image already, so just download it and then just let it sit there. So going back into Webflow, let's name our section MacBook Air. We'll just name it. And then let's add some paddings to it again, 60 on all sides, as you can remember. And guys, it's not always going to be 60, but just for this website, I'm using 60 to keep everything uniform and inside. Sometimes for some websites, you might need to make it 100, maybe a bit more, maybe a bit less. So, okay, less talking, more doing. So pressing on the MacBook Air section, let's do Control E, and then let's put a container inside. Now for this one, we'll need a container because you can see there's more than one element. So pressing on the container, let's make it this a flex and then vertical, because as you can see, it's all stacked. vertically. And then again, pressing on the container, let's do Control E and then add a, I want to say let's add a div block. In the div block, we'll have everything, all the text and the two buttons, and then under the div block, we'll insert this image. So pressing on the div block, let's make this a flex again, and then vertical. In direction, make it vertical. And I'll just make it middle alignment. And then pressing on the div block, Control E, let's add a heading, H1. And then this, it says Mac book here. And then pressing on the div block again, let's Control E, and then add a text block. And then it's a sky blue color. So just put sky blue color, period. And it's actually a bit bigger. So right now we're probably at 14 pixels. Let's make this actually 16, see how it works. Yep, that's I think actually a bit bigger. So 18 pixels. That is perfect. And then let's copy this, paste our text block, or just insert another text block, does not matter. I just want to use the same text block so we don't have to change the font again. And then do the second line, sky high performance with M4 period. And actually, why did it go back to 14 pixels? I don't understand. Okay, 18 pixels. There you go. Okay, and so what I basically want to do with these text blocks is add a spacing of 10 pixels on top. So give it a spacing of 10 pixels, just so there's some spacing between them. And then some spacing between the text block and the heading.
And now since we have this, for the buttons, we'll just go up to in here, copy this grid that we already had, and just copy it over. Now, if you don't remember how we actually did this, always go back and watch the first video, rewatch just how to create this section so that you always know, and because you can't copy from website to website, you can only copy inside the website. So now
that we copied it over, let's give this a second name. Give it a name of just 2. Just so that now if we make any changes to it, it doesn't reflect on the top one. And I want to give it a margin on top of 20 pixels. And let's change the text inside, so learn more, and then instead of shop iPhone, just buy. And as you can see, we have all of our text on the top. Let's press on our div, or let's press on our container. Let's do Control E and then image. Now we're going to insert this MacBook image that we had downloaded earlier. Let's replace the image, Apple MacBook, and then let's open it up. And then let's insert it in here. Now it is a bit smaller actually, so let's make it a bit smaller. And now to make sure it's actually aligned in the middle, press on your container, go to the top and just alignment, choose middle. There it is. And then we actually have one more element built for Apple Intelligence text. We actually, if you remember, made that same text block in here. So let's copy that one over again. And there it is. So we created this section. The only thing remaining, the background, which is a gradient, and it's very easy to do. So go selecting your MacBook Air section, go down to background. Let's add image or gradient, go to the second one, linear gradient, and basically replace black with this blue color. And then the bottom, okay, it's just this color, which is not actually white, it's a bit more gray-ish. So now, as you can see, we have our section, and as I said, it's not perfect. Now, right now I already can see that. So like these text blocks have to be a bit bigger, so let's make them 20 pixels. And then these buttons, they're actually, I think, almost perfect, with the only exception that this buy button on Apple's website is smaller in terms of margins. So actually, let's do this. Press on the button and then or let's give it another name, 1, and make the side paddings. And actually, let's do this. Go to your grid, select this edit grid button, and let's make this a bit smaller. There it is. If you didn't notice how I did that, just we're here, so press on the grid, press this edit grid button, and then in here just make this smaller, so make it 0.75. And you can see there it is. Everything is almost perfect. And as I said, we're not looking for perfection, we're just looking to learn from the experience. The only other thing that I would change is this MacBook Air heading. Make it, instead of 38 pixels, just make it 42. And there it is. And we actually went a bit overboard with our timing here. But let's just make this one last change. Selecting your MacBook Air, as you can see, we have some margin in here between these two sections also. So just give it a margin of 20 pixels on top, and as you're at it, just make it a 20 pixel margin on the bottom. And there it is, ladies and gentlemen. We created 2 more sections today. We created this section and this section. Now, as I said, it's not going to be perfect, okay? If you wanted perfection, of course, we would do a lot of different things. But since we're just trying to learn in here, all we're trying to do is try to replicate it to the best of our abilities. Now, as we move further with this series, I will be uncovering some more advanced stuff. And at that point, we'll be going in and actually trying to get it as perfect as we can. So that was it for today. I do want to thank everyone who has stayed for the whole video and watched the whole video. I will be continuing to do this series with uploads of 2 to 3 per week. So definitely subscribe and check out also my Instagram, because I post a lot of good content in there too. It's at Sam_webdesign. I'll be putting that in my description as well. So that was it for today. We made a lot of good progress, and definitely subscribe and make sure to come back for the next one.